Hey, it's James Rudge. This is the new eczema video. I've been doing this for 3 or 4 years now, working with people with eczema, atopic dermatitis, and different variations on that. And over time, my understanding of the condition's changed. My level of certainty over things that you need to work on has changed. And so I just want to do a new video covering the complete condition and how I see it within the body and what you can do about it. So first things first, what is eczema? So we know it's a disease of skin barrier, so skin barrier dysfunction. And it's also a disease of inflammation. So already we have two components that we can focus on. So where's this coming from? Let's do inflammation first. So inflammation, we know that atopic dermatitis is something called a Th2 mediated condition. What does it mean? Numbers, letters, don't focus on the letters and the numbers. I'm just showing you the mechanics of the condition. So what building blocks are interacting with what inside the body. So this will show us, after we've finished doing this loop, it will show us multiple intervention points that we can use to work on the condition. So Th2, what's Th2? Well, we have T cells, okay, naive T cells. These will go to the lymph glands, or your lymph nodes, all right, within the body. And that's why when you have an infection on your neck and in the groin area and your lymphatic system, that's when these will swell up if you have an infection. These naive T cells are the ones who don't know what they're going to be when they grow up. So they navigate their way to the lymph nodes, and then it will be exposed to a protein or an allergen or a pathogen fragment, and then it will train itself based on what it's found. Okay, so let's say lots of T cells there, they're all swollen up, and they get exposed to a bacterial antigen. On the bacteria themselves, if they've got antigens, which are, think of them like signals, little signposts, little flags. Once an antigen makes its way to the lymph nodes through dendritic cells handing it over, then the T cells will train themselves on that and say, right, guys, everyone, we're going to train to be Th2 cells when we grow up, all right? And they change, all right, the class switching over to Th2, all right? This is because it's been exposed to bacterial antigen or something like pollen or something like that in the environment. Once we have this Th2 shift, the immune system is now in that Th2 gear. And so what do we need to do? We need to stop this handover of the bacterial antigens. How do we do that? We need to heal and seal the body barriers, not just the skin barrier, because we have to stop these guys getting through. So Th2 inflammation, here's what's important about this. Number one, it upregulates the IgE response. All right, so you get IgE skewing, which is more of an allergic response to things. And also it produces cytokines, which again are chemical messengers, IL-4, 5, and 13. What does that mean? Numbers, letters, not important. All you need to know about these is that they will suppress the production of something called filaggrin. Filaggrin is that master skin protein. Without it, we can't make natural moisturizing factor and we can't make the skin barrier. All right, so already you can see skin barrier here. Because of the inflammatory process of the inflammation, the skin barrier is starting to break down. And let's draw the skin barrier being broken down. Okay, so it's got these gaps in it now that things in the external environment can come through. This is why most people on an IgE test or on a patch test, when they get one of these tests done, they will see that, oh, dust mites are on there, pollen is on there. Well, why? How has the immune system come across these proteins and these shapes of molecules? It's because your skin barrier is leaky, and so those things are entering straight through, being picked up by these dendritic cells, the guys with the long arms, all right? And they're picking these things up. And then where do you think they run off to with those? They run to those lymph nodes and they pass that to the immune system, and then the immune system skews in that direction because now it thinks there's an internal invasion happening. All right, it's not an immune system problem, it's the body barrier problem. All right, remember the body barrier is broken down because of an absence of filaggrin due to the production of these inflammatory cytokines due to the Th2 shift. You'll notice as we come full circle why atopic dermatitis is such a difficult condition to solve. It's because we have this feedback loop. So the more broken down the skin barrier is, the higher the antigen presentation, the higher the inflammation goes. And so we have to break this loop. So we've got this breakdown of skin barrier function. Why is this a big problem? Because now we're getting this crossover and passing into the body of these allergens and antigens. What happens then? So breakdown of skin barrier function. Here are other systems that are then affected. The biomes. So the skin microbiome, we'll run through these in a minute. Biomes, your stress will start to have an effect. The toxins, and then of course the diet. All of these things can directly affect the condition anyway, but these are the things that will start to feed back into the loop. So firstly, biomes. Let's talk about the skin biome first. So on top of the skin here, we have lots of microbes. Lots of different types of microbes. We've got some fungi, we've got some viruses, we've got some bacteria, obviously. Some of the common ones that we know, we've got Malassezia, which is a type of yeast. This is normally in the hair and hair areas. So we've already got a type of yeast. And then on the skin itself, one of the most common ones is Staphylococcus aureus and Streptococcus. These are normally fine. All right, if the skin barrier is healed and sealed, they're only a pain in the ass when the skin barrier starts to break down. All right, so when the doctor says, you have a Staphylococcus infection, it's because one of them or a group of them have made their way through the barrier. Not because they shouldn't be on the skin, it's because they've made their way through the barrier. So what are some interventions we can use here? So we've got garlic and tea tree. So this is my herbal medicine stuff coming out. So tea tree and garlic, two really good broad spectrum antimicrobials topically. You can get these in essential oil form, and then you're going to add those to whichever skin cream you're using. So beef tallow, you've got shea butter, jojoba oil, or whichever skin cream you're using, because remember, the skin cream itself will help put an additional layer on top of there to stop that movement of the things that are going to stimulate the immune system. That's the value in having a good skin cream. It's going to seal that. Not going to heal it. All right, it's not adding so much to the cells themselves, but you're getting that mechanical layer that's going to stop the transition of these things. These antimicrobial herbs, very good broad spectrum. All right, so they're going to work on the yeasts, they're going to work on the bacteria themselves. So you can add that just as a way to give your immune system a break and remove those microbes from the skin temporarily. Moving on, so we've got the skin biome, we've just discussed that, and then the gut microbiome. So let's go over here. Your gut, much like leaky skin, you've probably seen this in some of my other videos, we have the gut wall here, we have your bloodstream here, and then we have inside your gut here. So this is the food that you've eaten. Let's do some food particles here, and then we have lots and lots of microbes. You know this as the microbiome. In a condition called intestinal hyperpermeability, also known as leaky gut, we have a breakdown of the tight junctions that hold these gut wall cells together. So let's break those down. What do you think happens then? We're getting food proteins moving through into the bloodstream, and we're also getting bacterial toxins and sometimes bacteria themselves moving into the bloodstream. Notice how it looks a lot like this leaky skin situation. Now, if I've got bacterial proteins in there and we've got some food proteins, what do you think the immune system does when it finds these things not in the gut but in the bloodstream? It's going to have a full response. And again, much like the leaky skin situation, we're going to find this Th2 skewing. Okay? The body will use the Th2 response where there are issues around the cells, so extracellular, inside the bloodstream, inside the tissues, around the outside of the cells, versus like a Th1 response, which is where there are issues inside the cell, such as cancers and viruses and things like that. So further, the body will start to shift over there. What changes the microbiome? What changes the integrity of this gut lining? A big one is diet, which is why if you book in for a session, we have a good conversation about all of this, diet is one of the main factors that we'll look at. Are we eating refined carbohydrates? Are we eating a lot of sugar? Are we not eating a lot of fiber? That'll give us a good benchmark for where the microbiome is in terms of, do we have enough commensal microbes, the good guys, and do we have a pathogenic overgrowth? Do I have a lot of sweet cravings? All of these are indicators that we can have microbes in the gut that shouldn't be there. Once we restore the correct microbes, they can help work on the body barrier and the tight junctions between there. They can help us digest food. But for the meantime, staying on path, it's these that we need to get rid of. Okay, and the only way to do that, the only way to stop this movement of bacterial proteins and food proteins into the bloodstream is to heal and seal the gut lining. How do we do that? Zinc is an important one, L-glutamine. Also, you can take something called slippery elm. And again, much like this skin cream, slippery elm acts like that for your mucus layer. All right, so it's an additional mechanical layer that sits over the top of your enterocytes, that gut lining, which can help the absorption. Okay, magnesium. Magnesium is a great all-rounder anyway, but we need it for making the tight junctions. We need it for producing over 300 enzymes and proteins within the body. It's really important to have. So there's just a little stack. There are lots of supplements that you can use here, but certainly just understanding, yes, we do have a lever to change the effect of the gut lining. So now we've got this flow of things into the body, we're having that feedback loop starting to occur. Stress. Now, in one of my other videos recently, we covered this one. As we start to get conditions on the skin, the stress level goes up. What happens then? Well, your autonomic nervous system, I'll do it down here, splits into two parts. We have rest and digest, and we have fight and flight. Okay, if you're in fight and flight, liver function down 20%, kidney function down 20%, production of gut mucus, so this additional layer here, down. All right, production of digestive enzymes and stomach acid, down. So you can see if the body is in fight and flight and stressed out, either because of the skin condition or you hate your job or you're having an argument with the family or you've had a death in the family, all of those things will shift that autonomic nervous system over to the fight and flight response. What we need to do is move it over to the rest and digest. How do we do that? Vagus nerve. What's the vagus nerve? That's the one that runs all your subconscious processes. So digestion, stomach acid, liver, all of those run by the vagus nerve. How do we stimulate that? Breath work, meditation, stretching off trauma in the body. That's how we sort that out. As I said, we won't go too deep into each of these factors. I just want to complete this ring for you. And then we've got toxins. So because of the increased permeability of the skin barrier and the gut barrier in this condition, the liver, let's put it here, now has a much higher load. All right, it's got more things it needs to filter out. Where do you think these things go as they enter through into the bloodstream? Especially if we have certain bacteria within the gut producing something called LPS, which are lipopolysaccharides. These are a bacterial toxin that are quite difficult for the liver to get rid of. So now we have this increased toxic burden on the liver. And a great way to check whether you do have a sluggish liver, one that's slow in doing the detox process, is if you have a sensitivity to strong smells. So cigarette smoke, perfumes, aftershaves, things like that. It's an indicator that your liver may be overburdened. Okay, and then we can use the liver herbs, such as St. Mary's thistle, globe artichoke for the gallbladder, and of course dandelion. So they're the three that we use for the liver. Now, because if the liver's not working properly and we have holes in the gut microbiome, you can see this inflammatory process continuing. Okay, so it's really important when you are viewing the condition, it's not just a skin condition. It is a full loop that connects to itself and has reinforcing elements. So how do we get on top of the condition? As we've said, Th2, we can change the T cell class switching by using things like echinacea. Okay, this helps the immune system move between Th2 and Treg, because the optimal solution, if I was to put it in one word, is Treg. All right, moving the immune system over from a Th2 response over to a T regulatory cell response, most of this stuff goes away. Most of this stuff goes away. So how do we do that? There are some herbs that can influence it directly, but remember, don't try and shove the body out of a immune response when it's clearly doing it for a reason. And this goes for like suppressive medications as well. Your body is producing a Th2 response for a reason. It's one of these, let's get rid of it. All right? Don't try and shove it into T regulatory cell response when it's trying to deal with an issue inside. All right, so whether it's gut permeability, skin permeability, chronic stress in the autonomic nervous system, your diet's full of refined foods or just convenience foods because we don't have enough time when we come back from work and we don't have the energy to do a nice meal, it's because of all those things coming together. And so what we do in the clinic is we will explain to the person, based on the assessment, what we need to work on first. All right, and then we have plans, we have meal guides, we have stress guides, we have the herbal guides for using these things. We help people work on every aspect that presents in their assessment. So that's what eczema looks like. That's how we deal with it. And if you're interested, you can click the link below this video or somewhere around this video. Get booked in for a call with me. We'll go through the elements of this that are important. And from there, we'll be able to put a structured plan together so that you have an intervention point for each one of these. I hope it was useful, and I'll see you in the next video.